Hello guys, welcome back to Defying Anime. Guys, please like the video and subscribe to my channel. Today is explanation of Swallowed Star Part 364 based on novel. So let's start. Amid the surging golden waves, a gigantic black cocoon floated. Sometimes it would bulge at one side, and at other times, it would bulge at the other side as though a monster was trying its best to burst forth from the cocoon. Opposing forces were frantically trying to annihilate one another. Sector Beast Betty was under the suppression of endless waves and a single thought-void space, yet it was not bothered in the least. Looking far into the distance at the black mist cocoon, it broke into a wide smile. As if to publicize its arrogance, it said, "Milky Way Horde leader, you have fallen, and your godly power is not only used to fight the power of the sector beasts but is also constantly being devoured by me. Compared to you, my consumption of power is much smaller. In terms of strength, you are only an ordinary human life form. How can you hold a candle to me, a noble, fifth-stage sector beast?" Betty was full of confidence. Break, break, break. The black mist cocoon was bulging repeatedly while vaguely showing the shape of a blade. Apparently, Luo Feng was using his blade to strike at the black mist cocoon in a frantic manner, yet no matter what he did, he could not force his way out. Ha ha ha, Sector Beast Betty was all the more arrogant as it watched Luo Feng struggling helplessly. Asterisk 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 asterisk. Within the black mist cocoon, Luo Feng might have appeared to be repeatedly hacking against the black mist cocoon while at the same time blazing his godly power to fight against the sector beast, but deep within his heart, he was not the least bit flustered. He kept his cool, as he was aware that the black mist cocoon was very tenacious. If he sought to break it open by force, it would only be possible if both parties were very different in strength. He could forcibly break open Morosa's black mist cocoon, but he could not do the same to the black mist cocoon set up by this fifth-stage sector beast, Betty. The best solution was to maintain the maximum consumption of godly power on both sides, and thereafter, strike with a full-force attack. This was the best way to break free and make his escape. The consumption of my godly power is only maintained at a relative rate, not a full-force outburst, Luo Feng said to himself. If not, my godly body would have expanded instantly to a height of 1 light year. With my mighty godly power, I can instantly annihilate this cocoon. It was a mutual consumption of power. Blood Ghost Blade was hacking the cocoon, but Luo Feng was maintaining it at a certain degree so that it was revealing adequate power to that degree. He did not want Sector Beast Betty to become suspicious. However, this would also mean he was unable to charge out of the black cocoon. "Betty, as the strongest sector beast, how can it be that you are afraid to fight me in battle?" Luo Feng's face was hideous because of all his angry roaring. He understood that sector beasts were able to detect everything that was happening within a short distance, so his expression was definitely visible to Betty. "If I am able to kill you so easily, is there any need to put forth the effort to fight you?" said Sector Beast Betty. Betty was, on the contrary, quite at ease. Deep within its heart, its greatest opponent was none other than Milky Way Horde leader. So long as it killed Milky Way Horde leader, the other great beings in Universe Ocean were not worth even mentioning. It would become the king of the sector beasts easily. Break them all. Luo Feng was fearsome, going crazy within the cocoon. His blade ray was dazzling white like snow. Again and again, it hacked against the black cocoon. "We are both consuming one another's power," thought Luo Feng. "I have lost half, and it, too, has lost half. But at the moment, it is constantly devouring my godly power and has devoured almost 30% so far. The proportion that we are at now, upon comparison, can be seen as such. When I have consumed 80%, it will have consumed 50%. Luo Feng was calculating. Although Sector Beast Betty was constantly devouring his godly power, it still needed time to transform whatever it swallowed. Just like how Morosa required an extremely long time to transform everything it had devoured from one origin each time it swallowed one. For one sector beast to feed on another sector beast, both being comprised of the same type of power, what was swallowed could naturally be transformed very rapidly. But to devour the power of another type, the transformation process was much more troublesome. 8 to 5. When Luo Feng had consumed 8 parts of his godly power, the sector beast would have consumed 5 parts of its godly power. If this situation persisted. Asterisk 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 asterisk. In the blink of an eye, sector beast Betty power was down by 1/10. This left it in great shock. Why is he not dead yet? Sector beast Betty said, staring at the black cocoon suspended in the distance. The random bulging on all sides continued, so obviously, Luo Feng was still struggling to break out to make an escape. His godly body, even if he was 10 million kilometers tall, ought to be used up by now. Something is wrong. He is only a human, how could his godly body get so big? Betty did not understand. It might have conversed with Zhenjiao Emperor and Dragon Rock ancestral god about this, but those two fellows had long been ostracized by the various races of Universe Ocean. They had not been to the world of Jin, either, so they were oblivious to any information regarding the 3rd level of the godly body route. Of course, they would not have known that the moment a godly body reached the 3rd level, it would become a limitless godly body. Betty might not have known anything either, but it could sense that something was amiss, so it did not dare to continue what it had started. Keep. Sector beast Betty's 2 singular eyes were filled with reluctance. Far in the distance, the black cocoon was scattering countless threads and retracting them back into its body. Luo Feng, garbed in his silver-white armor, stood in the distance. He had 5 pairs of wings outspread from his back and was holding onto his blood ghost blade. Luo Feng stared at Betty. Why are we not continuing? You are indeed worthy to be called Universe Ocean's #1 master, said Betty. Now, all the more, Betty did not dare to belittle this Milky Way horde leader. The godly power you have as reserve far exceeds my wildest imagination. It seems that using such simple moves to kill you is simply impossible. With blood ghost blade in his grasp, Luo Feng shook his head with a sigh. I sought to destroy a good half of your power with this method. I did not expect you to give up so soon. Just as I have guessed, this was only a ruse. Sector beast Betty suddenly let out a low roar. I can't be bothered with anything else. I shall just crush you to death right away. That will do. A roar followed. Roar. The blood-colored secret engravings all over Sector beast Betty's entire body suddenly lit up. Then, blood-hued halos started to appear all over its body. Its aura suddenly increased in strength as it charged at Luo Feng with a howl. It was extremely fast, so fast that its speed far exceeded Luo Feng's. Holding on to his blood ghost blade, Luo Feng recalled something Morosa had once mentioned to him. Master, a 5th-stage sector beast has acquired a portion of the origin of destruction. In other words, it owns the most powerful technique, destruction. Even if it chooses not to execute this most powerful technique, its ordinary attacks will still contain the subtle profundity of destruction. Thus, its power will be greatly enhanced. Then I shall see for myself. Luo Feng blazed his godly power to its limit. Instantly, Wu Qi God was infused with some of his godly power. Having transformed into a silver-white Wu Qi God, Luo Feng's aura produced an instant outburst. He had already managed to activate the 2nd stage of Wu Qi God, so within that short span of time, his power skyrocketed. All this time, he continued to hold his blood ghost blade. Human. With its entire being bathed in blood-colored halos, Sector beast Betty's left and right hands stretched out one after the other, as though each held an endless universe. Then the fingers on its right hand started to change one by one. Instantly, a whirlpool passageway appeared amidst the golden waves. Soon after, the fingers on its left hand also started to transform one by one, and another whirlpool passageway emerged. The walls of the 2 whirlpool passageways were like mirrors that reflected everything from the outside world. Both passageways were intertwined with one another, becoming a mirror of one another. With both mirrors reflecting off each other, the endless world was reflected. The 2 whirlpool passageways were intertwined with one another, yet they seemed to have given rise to an endless world. Reincarnation passageway. Sector beast Betty initiated a propulsion with both claws. Hua. The 2 intertwining whirlpool passageways formed an endless world of reflections that emitted a bizarre aura. The world moved to enshroud Luo Feng. What profound mystery of the destruction of origin is this? Luo Feng said. He immediately felt that this move bore a whole new sense of novelty. These two intertwining whirlpool passageways seemed to have given rise to a trillion spaces. Annihilation of space. Blood Ghost Blade, which Luo Feng had been holding safe within his grasp, seemed to change into fine willows. These willows seemed to do a dance of their own accord, which, in turn, brought about endless space ripples. The endless space ripples gathered and condensed, but in the end, they were all brought to a great, boundless annihilation. Hong. Luo Feng's Blood Ghost Blade formed a vast expanse of nothingness. Wherever it touched, the golden waves also transformed into nothingness. Peng. 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 When the two intertwining whirlpool passageways collided against the oppressive force of this nothingness, instantly, a loud rumble was heard. The two intertwining whirlpool passageways tried their best to advance over and over again, and the billions of worlds of reflections they unleashed brought about a tremendous outburst of power as they exerted their mighty impact over and over again. The vast nothingness whipped up by Luo Feng's Blood Ghost Blade was continuously exerting its oppressive force. Regardless of whether it was 1,000 worlds of reflections, 10,000 of them, or even 100 million, all were annihilated. Hong. The final two whirlpool passageways completely collapsed. The oppressive force over the void space persisted for another short area before it dissipated. What? Sector Beast Betty was stunned. I am now at a disadvantage. Sector Beast Betty hesitated no more. Go. Turning around, Betty immediately took off and escaped with his speed skyrocketing as he moved. 100 times light speed, 1,000 times light speed. Asterisk 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 asterisk. Sector Beast Betty was maintaining its sector light domain while executing its blood-burning technique. Then it executed the move Reincarnation Passageway, which it had acquired upon breaking through to the 5th stage because it had managed to partially comprehend the move of Destroying the Origin. The moves it was using were the most powerful moves it could use in the range of not causing any great impact on its strength. Indeed, it possessed the ability to execute a more formidable technique, the most powerful technique, known as destruction. It did not know why, but it was fully capable of executing it. Once executed, even a miniature universe could be easily annihilated. Yet, likewise, the price to be paid was hefty. A large amount of energy would be consumed upon execution. After all, it had just crossed over to the 5th stage and had yet to reach the top tier of the 5th stage. It was reluctant to execute this move yet. Escape, said Betty. I shall escape for now. When my power reaches the top tier of the 5th stage, or even the 6th stage, I will kill him. That won't be too much longer, either. He has already become a true god. There is no way he can go any further. But I have more than enough room to go higher. Betty may have thought this way, but in its heart, there was a trace of fear. This was the very first time it had been forced to flee. To date, no one had ever been able to force it to the point of having to escape, yet Luo Feng had brought it to this sorry state. Asterisk 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 asterisk. Stop. Luo Feng executed Endless Golden Ocean and Single Thought Void Space. At the same time, he pointed afar, and a 9-story star tower flew over right away, emitting a dazzling light. Its base was composed of endless darkness, which shrouded Sector Beast Betty in the distance. Hong. Long. An endless black whirlpool crazily devoured Sector Beast Betty. It's useless. Sector Beast Betty executed its blood-burning technique. The blood-colored secret engravings all over its body unleashed rays of light that enabled it to easily resist the star tower's devouring. Seems like it is not enough. Luo Feng shook his head and immediately brought back Star Tower. Go. Luo Feng waved again, and a green, plant-structured treasure floated into view. Right away, millions of branches and vines spread out to fill the surroundings, rapidly obscuring an entire chunk of the world. Almost instantly, the faraway Sector Beast Betty, who was attempting to escape, was enveloped by this treasure. I don't believe you will be able to escape this, said Luo Feng. Luo Feng's eyes were filled with murderous intent. 1,000 strands of vines is acting in concert with Endless Golden Ocean and a Single Thought Void Space. If you are still able to escape, then something must be seriously wrong. With a Single Thought Void Space, Luofeng was able to control time and space. Endless Golden Ocean fell under the category of domain equals type treasures. And Thousand Strands of Vines was a spiritual weapon and was also a weapon that had the power to restrain. All three were automaton-type treasures. Among them, Thousand Strands of Vines and Pearl of Golden Ocean were commonly used by true gods of void space. These two wielded extremely strong powers. On the other hand, Single Thought Void Space was the weakest among the three. When the three were superimposed, Sector Beast Betty was trapped. Break open. Reincarnation Passageway. Betty, who was trapped within the passageway, could feel itself being surrounded by the ocean, with time and space suppressing it. Far in the distance, countless branches and leaves were densely tangled around it, containing it within a sealed world. It was now inside this sealed world, with its entire body radiating blood-colored halos, trying its best to execute its attacks. Countless strikes were thrown against the numerous branches and leaves, but the branches and leaves were too strong and sturdy. There was no way to break free from them. Roar. Sector Beast Betty raised its head and let out an angry roar. Thick veins were forced around its two necks as both its eyes flashed crazy madness. No escape at all. Luofeng's abilities were more than enough to send it to its doom. That was why he had to charge out now. There was no other option. Only his most powerful moves were left. "You want to die," said Sector Beast Betty. "Then I shall grant you death." Sector Beast Betty roared. Immediately, it executed its most powerful technique, destruction. After Sector Beast Betty entered level 5, bloody engravings had formed on his originally black skin. As Betty screamed and performed his supreme technique destruction, the engravings started to flow on the surface of Betty's body. Then they swam out of its skin and started to float behind it. The giant bloody engraving picture floated behind Betty. There were no longer any engravings on the surface of its body. "Who?" An ancient scream rumbled, and the enormous engraving image behind Betty started to gleam with radiant light. The image was like a skeleton, and the light it produced was like skin and flesh. They quickly clotted, forming the silhouette of a sector beast with two heads. It was a sector beast formed by the engraving picture, and it was gleaming, putting out endless light. Destruction. Sector Beast Betty roared. Destruction roared the enormous sector beast silhouette behind it. The two voices resonated with each other. The combined yelling made even Luofeng's soul tremble as he was watching it with single thought void space. Betty suddenly reached out its right hand. Hua! All 5 fingers were moving, triggering the space and time around them. Hong! Long! Long! An extensive, gleaming white whirlpool appeared out of nowhere. It was billions of times shinier than a star. Go! Betty pushed it with its right hand, and the image of the sector beast behind it also pushed. The gleaming white whirlpool spun as it flew forward, destroying everything it touched. Ang! As the whirlpool portal moved forward, it was still revolving, and the power from its spinning could mince everything. Peng! The huge wall of branches and leaves crumbled and scattered. Countless vines were retracted. The giant, oval-shaped mass of huge vines, branches, and leaves dissipated, turning back into the dark green plant valuable, 1,000 strands of vines. The whirlpool portal seemed to be moving slowly. However, that was because of the illusion that time almost stopped. On the contrary, it was moving rapidly. After piercing through 1,000 strands of vines, it charged at Luofeng in the distance. There was a 9-level tower standing in the golden waves in the distance. Luofeng had already entered Star Tower. Even though he was confident that he could resist the attack, Luofeng still couldn't afford to be reckless. Die! Sector Beast Betty gazed at Luofeng in the distance, its eyes twinkling expectantly. In Star Tower, Luofeng watched the glowing whirlpool portal rushing at him. Destruction. Is this destruction? This is the most powerful attack technique out of all the 6 levels of Sector Beasts, which contains part of the destruction origin. Luofeng was thrilled. Weaker true gods would only feel that the power was immense and extensive, they wouldn't have been able to discern the mysteries behind it. As for Luofeng, he could understand some of the mysteries. Even though he was also a true god, he was a true god who could create techniques at top-tier level 11, which meant he was already as powerful as ordinary true gods of void space. If he was willing, he could certainly morph his miniature universe to a higher level, becoming a true god of void space after that. There was only one threshold to becoming a true god of void space. As long as someone was able to create techniques at top-tier level 10, they would be able to become a true god of void space, just like Teacher Origin. As for Divine Eye True Master, Juhi True God, and Primal Chaos City Leader, they were only able to create techniques at top-tier level 9. It was exceedingly difficult for them to break through. Similarly, most Universe Masters could only create techniques at top-tier level 5, and it was difficult for them to advance. Luo Feng had become a true god after his godly body reached 100,000 times, which was more difficult than becoming an eternal true god. Besides, he had a solid foundation and had gained a lot when comprehending the evolution of chaos, so he was able to create techniques at top-tier level 11. Yet Luo Feng didn't dare to become a true god of void space now. Once he became a true god of void space, he needed to go transcend incarnations within a very short period of time. That meant he would lose the chance to resist the sector beasts, and when he was transcending incarnations, sector beasts could go and swallow his miniature universe. They would destroy the original universe, and the entire human race would go extinct. The Earthlings and all Luo Feng's family members would die. That was something Luo Feng wouldn't allow to happen. No matter how powerful he was now, he didn't dare to achieve a breakthrough. Instead, he remained at the level of a true god. It was the only way he would have enough time to fight the sector beasts. Asterisk 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 asterisk. Is that the destruction origin? And the original universe is the life origin. Luo Feng was mesmerized by this move. That whirlpool portal represents part of the destruction origin, yet it's so shiny and bright. The white and gleaming whirlpool portal coming at Luo Feng cast a reflection on his eyes. He kept discovering the mysteries of the whirlpool portal, and in the distance, his godly power avatar was studying and comprehending in the space of the black-striped stone pillar, where time moved 10 million times faster, to improve himself. Destruction. He had never met the destruction origin before. He was a creature born in the original universe, so he was totally amazed by this move. Hong. Time was almost frozen, and the gleaming whirlpool portal suddenly hit the 9-level tower, blasting the entire star tower away. What an amazing move. Luo Feng was thrilled. That Betty doesn't have Wu Qi God, Shi Wu Wing, and Blood Shadow Blade. All it has is its own power, yet it's still able to put out such power. If I didn't have Star Tower, I would be at a severe disadvantage even if I could resist the attack. The whirlpool portal struck Star Tower. Luo Feng could clearly sense how powerful the move was, and he could immediately tell that he was able to resist it. The prerequisite was that he had Wu Qi God and Blood Shadow Blade. Hide in Star Tower all you want if you're such a coward, Sector Beast Betty said savagely. The enormous image of the Sector Beast behind it had disappeared while that bloody engraving picture merged with its skin. Su. Sector Beast Betty turned around and started to flee. It wasn't stupid. Luo Feng could easily resist destruction by hiding in Star Tower, so there was no point for it to keep fighting. You're the most powerful Sector Beast, Betty, said Luo Feng. Why are you leaving so soon? Star Tower quickly flew toward Betty. Hua, hua, hua. Both Pearl of the Golden Ocean and Shi Wu Wing were trying to control the golden waves and the time and space that were frozen in place. They were both constricting Betty. Luo Feng was already terrifically fast under his limit, and Betty was strictly suppressed, so they were getting closer and closer. Damn it. Betty looked ferocious. It was so furious that it was clenching its teeth. It didn't bother to separate its body, as it knew that if it did, those 99 bodies wouldn't be able to resist Star Tower. Su. Star Tower rushed at Betty, getting closer to it. Betty, yelled Betty. Hong. Long. A godly power wave immediately rushed out, enveloping Betty, who was trying to run away. Although godly power itself couldn't do much to slow it down, it was like tossing red-hot iron into water, and when the godly power ocean surrounded Sector Beast Betty. Kai. 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 The godly power and the power of the sector beasts kept consuming each other. Betty was infuriated. It had never been suppressed like this in its life. Now, it understood that the godly power of Milky Way Horde Leader was much greater than he was, which was why he had dared to use that move. Do you really think you can kill me with that move? Betty looked at Star Tower with both its heads. Come out and fight me if you dare. Okay. A white being flew out of Star Tower. Betty was astounded. He hadn't expected Milky Way Horde Leader to be brave enough to fly out of Star Tower. Isn't he afraid that I'm going to kill him? Betty wondered, confused. Betty had been forced into a difficult situation and had almost decided to use Sector Light Portal to run away, as that was the ultimate means of escape. But once it was performed, it had to burn its own sector, reducing the level of its sector by at least one full level. Betty was a sector beast at level 5, so if it performed Sector Light Portal, it would at least drop down to level 4, which meant it would at least need to eat 30 sector beasts at level 4 to get back to level 5. It wouldn't resort to that move unless its very life was threatened. Betty. Luo Feng flew toward Betty with Blood Shadow Blade in hand. I respect you and will kill you in a fight. Arrogant. Betty grew even angrier. All of a sudden, bloody engravings appeared on its skin again and were spinning around its godly body. They flew behind its body, and it started to glow. The light quickly condensed. The bloody engravings were like the skeleton, forming a gleaming sector beast once again. Betty and the sector beast image utilized the same move. They both reached out their right hands. Destruction. Betty performed its most powerful move yet again. Though it also consumed a great deal of energy, it wasn't as relentless as Sector Light Portal. Great. Luo Feng stared at the radiant, gleaming whirlpool portal, trying to study it. Why had Luo Feng come out to fight it? Because he wanted to witness the move Destruction. Destruction contained part of the Destruction origin, and unless he was fighting a sector beast, he didn't have any other chance to comprehend it. So, that's how it works. While Luo Feng was watching it, his godly power body was analyzing it in a place where time moved 10 million times faster. Betty glared at Luo Feng, clenching its teeth. Die. Hong. The gleaming whirlpool portal crushed everything in its path and flew at Luo Feng. It destroyed all it touched. Nothing could stop this whirlpool portal that represented destruction, yet Luo Feng stood still with his Blood Shadow Blade, concentrating on the whirlpool portal. Luo Feng suddenly waved the Blood Shadow Blade in his hands. Light wing. Blade light burst forth, and all of a sudden, an enormous white dragon with huge wings appeared. The dragon was over 100 million kilometers long. Its individual scales were distinct. Each scale was brighter than a star, and the eyes looked indifferent. It shook its wings, then struck the whirlpool portal with its head lowered. Hong. 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 The whirlpool portal and the light-wing dragon suddenly struck each other. Luo Feng was as powerful as a true god of void space, and he had Wu Qi God, Blood Shadow Blade, and Duan Mie. The attack was just as powerful as a top-tier true god of void space and could have destroyed a miniature universe. It was like the destruction of the universe. Endless waves of impact howled, then spread out, sweeping in all directions. A portion of the incomplete whirlpool passageways that collided against the surface of Luo Feng's Blood Ghost blade sent him rolling and flying into the distance. Pu. The strong impact upon being hit caused Luo Feng great discomfort. Instantly, he spat out a mouthful of blood. After becoming a true god, Luo Feng's blood had changed to the normal red color of ordinary blood. How mysterious. How very mysterious. Luo Feng was not the least bit angry. On the contrary, he was filled with delight. The first round, he had merely observed how Star Tower fought and resisted against destruction. But this time around, he was wielding Blood Ghost blade with his own hands and resisting destruction personally. Now, he had a clearer comprehension of the origin of destruction. Naturally, he had gained much more than before. As for that mouthful of blood he had spat out, was it a big deal? It was nothing to worry about at all. As for the consumption of his godly body, given Luo Feng's massive godly body, it was negligible. Asterisk 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 asterisk. Sector Beast Betty saw how Luo Feng was able to transform back into a streak of flowing light to charge at it after spitting out a mouthful of blood. It was flabbergasted. You can resist that? It had never occurred to Betty that Milky Way Horde leader would actually be able to resist destruction upfront, without the help of any treasures such as the palace-type treasure, Star Tower. "Is this your strongest move?" said Luo Feng. "It's so average." Luo Feng tore his way through space. Blood Ghost blade appeared in his hands once again. A blade ray sliced through space. His blade transformed into a gigantic, luminous winged dragon. The resplendent dragon, illuminated with white light, was gracefully flapping its wings as it directed itself towards Betty. Then, without hesitation, it swooped toward the Sector Beast. Sector Beast Betty dared not forcibly resist. It was aware that this move Luo Feng had made was only one notch less superior than destruction. If Betty was hit by Luo Feng's attack, the amount of power it would lose would almost be the same as what it required to execute destruction once. Since the exchange of blows had started up until now, it had already executed destruction twice. Betty was merely a sector beast that had only just crossed over to the 5th stage, meaning to say that it had yet to reach the top level. If it continued executing this move, then at this rate, Luo Feng need not even lift a finger. Betty would already be devoid of the strength to resist. Split. Sector Beast Betty divided its body into 99 avatars, which then fled in all directions. Ayo! The dazzling white dragon raised its head and, with a loud roar, was instantly disintegrated into 1,000 streaks of white light. These streaks of light burst out and shot toward the 99 avatars. Then, suddenly, those among the 99 avatars that were bombarded by the streaks of white light were dispersed to nothingness. Eventually, all that was left was the original body of Betty on the run. Its original body had been hit by 3 streaks of white light, but Betty was still on the run, escaping as fast as it could. "Betty, I am out now," said Luo Feng, "yet you reject the chance to do battle?" Luo Feng's speed obviously surpassed Betty's, as he was rapidly closing up the distance between them. Betty did not make a single utterance in reply. All it did was try its best to escape from Luo Feng. "How about another round? That move of yours, isn't it meant to be very impressive?" The closer Luo Feng was, the more he lamented the misfortune. From Morosa, he had learned that the number of ordinary 5th-stage sector beasts who were able to execute destruction was not great to begin with. To execute the move, the amount of power exhausted was too great a toll to pay. Apparently, at the moment, Betty was no longer willing to execute the move again. "If only I could observe it a few more times, it would definitely be a great advantage for me," Luo Feng complained to himself. He had felt destruction twice, and it was a shocking advantage he had gained. He felt that so long as he could digest the information a little more, he would be able to create a secret technique at the 12th tier. It was important to note that every step forward was only going to get tougher. Besides, Luo Feng had set the reins and limited himself to the true god level, so technically, it was even more difficult for him to level up. True god of void space, an eternal true god, how was he going to ascend to the different levels? Firstly, through normal comprehension. Secondly, by observing the evolution of his own miniature universe. If the miniature universe of a true god was too small, the level of insight that its evolution entailed would also be lower. Like the birth and destruction of the primal universe, it was so deeply profound that even countless great beings from the ancient civilization were eager to lay their eyes on it. This was the exact reason why Sitting Mountain Guest had wanted Luo Feng to make such a request from the willpower of the primal universe origin. The miniature universe of a true god was the smallest, whereas the miniature universe of a true god of void space was slightly bigger. The internal evolution of a true god of void space involved a deeper level of insight. The miniature universe of an eternal true god was even more massive, and the internal operation was, thus, even more mystical. He was constantly increasing. If Luo Feng achieved a breakthrough to become a true god, he believed that the improvement he would make in comprehending his miniature universe would be much faster. But he dared not, at the moment, because he needed to limit himself to the level of a true god. "Since this is what you are going to do, then you only have yourself to blame," Luo Feng said, letting out a snort. A wave of godly power came surging out and rapidly. It moved to bind Sector Beast Betty, which was not too far away. Kai. His godly power and the power of Sector Beast were consuming each other crazily. The two heads of Sector Beast Betty turned to look at Luo Feng. It gave Luo Feng a dead stare, and through gritted teeth, it said, "Milky Way Horde Leader, I will remember this." Sector Beast Betty raised its head suddenly to let out a roar of reluctance. Ah! Its roar sounded full of madness and sorrow. Along with the roar, its body was radiating rich, colorful lights. The most important sector within its body was burning like crazy. This was a recourse that sector beasts were most unwilling to take. For the most powerful of all sector beasts to have to make this choice meant that if it ever wanted to climb back up to its rank as number one, the difficulty would increase by tens of thousands of times. Not good. Luo Feng became aware right away that this sector beast, Betty, wanted to execute sector light passageway. Buzz. Behind him, 5 pairs of resplendent wings were outspread. They were all blazing to the maximum limit as they madly infused godly power into Shawu wings. The 4th pair of wings were activated, and instantly, every secret engraving on this 4th pair of wings lit up dazzlingly. A single thought void space dissipated without further delay, while at the same time, a miniature universe with a diameter of up to 10,000 light-years was born out of nowhere. There was chaotic airflow everywhere. The golden waves that were formed by Pearl of the Golden Ocean made up only a small region of the entire miniature universe. This was the 4th stage of Shawu wings, establish a universe with a single thought. "No!" cried Betty. The sector light passageway, which was about to complete its formation, was suddenly oppressed by the power of the origin of Luo Feng's miniature universe. Immediately, it collapsed. This brought a look of terror to Sector Beast Betty's face. It was reluctant. It went mad, shouting, "Another time, blaze, Hong." The colorful light radiated by Sector Beast Betty was much richer. It had only intended to lower down to the 4th stage, but now, it could not be bothered with anything else. Even if it had to be lowered to the 3rd stage, it would accept its fate. So long as it could escape, nothing else mattered. Hong. Under the pressure exerted by the great origin of the miniature universe, Sector Light Passageway was unable to take form. This. Betty was desperate. It did not have any power left for consumption. This was because, falling from the 5th to the 4th stage, the energy of the sector light produced was most abundant. From the 4th to the 3rd stage, the energy that the sector light produced was much lesser. There was no need to even mention the energy produced for the next transition downward. It had fallen all the way from the 5th stage to the 3rd stage just like that, and yet was so easily subdued. Such a gap in ability from resistance to total helplessness. This made it clear to Sector Beast Betty that even if he were to add more sector light energy, anything he did would be useless. "How is this possible?" said Sector Beast Betty. "How can it be that I have already crossed over to the 5th stage?" Betty found this hard to believe. It looked around at the omnipresent, chaotic airflow, then back at the faraway Luo Feng. Luo Feng merely smiled. He could execute the move of establish a universe with a single thought, all thanks to Sector Beast Betty. Before they had exchanged fire, he had still been a hair's breadth away from fully comprehending the 4th stage of Shawu wings. That tiny margin that separated him from complete comprehension hindered his success of breaking through. And yet, by witnessing Sector Beast Betty execute destruction, which was also the first time Betty had used it, he had been able to gain an understanding, and thus, he could rapidly overcome that tiny margin of comprehension preventing him from learning how to activate the 4th stage of Shawu wings. And when Sector Beast Betty executed destruction the 2nd time, Luo Feng had been able to comprehend even more. To establish a single thought void space. To establish a universe with a single thought. Both were methods of controlling time and space. While the control utilized by single thought void space was considered limited, that of establish a universe with a single thought gave rise to control over a miniature universe. It was so strong that it was terrifying. To be able to establish a universe, how could Sector Light Passageway possibly break free? Asterisk. Accept death. Star Tower flew out from the middle of Luo Feng's hand immediately. It hovered suspended in midair, and from its base, endless dark whirlpools were forming to enshroud Sector Beast Betty in the distance. Having fallen all the way back to a 3rd stage Sector Beast, Betty was simply powerless against the dual controlling powers of Star Tower and Luofeng's miniature universe. "You are so vicious," said Sector Beast Betty, bound by the dark whirlpool and compelled to fly toward the black hole at the base of Star Tower. It gave Luofeng, who stood a distance away, a blank stare as it roared, "Milky Way Horde Leader, you are indeed the greatest obstruction in the way of the entire Sector Beast clan. However, no one has ever succeeded at stopping the rise of us Sector Beasts, no one at all. All who try to stop us will all be destroyed by us." Sector Beast Betty stared daggers at Luofeng. "You, and all of your race," said Betty. "It's destiny that all of you will be destroyed. This is your fate, and there is no way you can defy fate." "Ha ha ha. Hong." Sector Beast Betty's entire being exploded in a loud blast. Then, there was nothingness. Luofeng watched the entire scene from afar. Betty had chosen to self-destruct. There was simply nothing he could do. Back when Morosa had attempted to self-destruct, he had only been at the level of a second-stage pinnacle Sector Beast. Luofeng had been able to rely on the suppression power of Star Tower, the power of the origin of his miniature universe, and the power of single-thought void space. Superimposing these three layers, he had been able to keep Morosa under suppression so that it was unable to self-destruct. But even if Betty had been downgraded, it would still have been at the third-stage pinnacle level, while he only had the power of the origin of his miniature universe, which he could use as suppression. The ability to establish a universe with a single thought when compared to ordinary true gods' miniature universes was undoubtedly much more powerful, but it was still a far cry from Luofeng's formidable and powerful miniature universe. ******************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************** unquestionably, transmit any information it desired to the other sector beasts to know, excluding Morosa, right away. That way, they could detect the news without delay. Asterisk 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 asterisk. The sector beast's nest fell into total darkness. Nearly 10 million sector beasts were scattered all over. On normal days, these beasts would be fighting one another in life-and-death battles just for the chance to emerge as the final king of the pack. They were natural-born destroyers. Noble as they were, they had never looked up to any of the other races in Universe Ocean. In their eyes, even those in their breeding period, the various other races of Universe Ocean were merely food. I am Betty, read the message. Universe Ocean's #1 master, Milky Way Horde leader Luo Feng, has penetrated the heart of our land of darkness. He has already entered the heart of our land of darkness. I might have crossed over to the 5th stage. But I am still not his match. He is much stronger than any of us expected. All sector beasts, our moment of life and death crisis has truly arrived. When it comes to confronting this Milky Way Horde leader, if we do not unite in the face of this enemy, we sector beasts will all perish at his hands. This is the greatest crisis we sector beasts face. All of us must face this crisis together. Abandon all fighting. Together, we must join forces to annihilate Milky Way Horde leader. I have executed sector light passageway, yet I am still unable to escape. I must self-destruct, but all my fellow sector beasts, bear this in mind. I, a 5th stage sector beast, Betty, have died at the hands of Luo Feng, and all of you have to kill him. Kill Milky Way Horde leader. Kill Milky Way Horde leader. Sector beast Beddy's voice resonated within the hearts of close to 10 million sector beasts of the land of darkness. At that moment, regardless of how wild their ambitious minds were, every single sector beast fell silent. Almost 10 million sector beasts were densely crowded together, yet at that moment, there was an unprecedented silence, demonstrating that all of them were in unison. Shortly after, they all came to realize that Betty, whom they had all been able to detect earlier, had suddenly vanished. Betty had been annihilated. Roar, roar, roar. Tens of millions of sector beasts in the entire sector beast nest raised their heads and roared as one. Amidst their roars, was endless rage and madness. Kill Milky Way Horde leader. Kill Milky Way Horde leader. Kill Milky Way Horde leader. One by one, the sector beasts were transmitting their own voices. Every single sector beast could hear the countless voices of its fellow sector beasts. Tens of millions of them were all transmitting their voices in sync, in the same rhythm and tone, all sending the same message: kill Milky Way Horde leader. Like and subscribe to our channel. Thank you for watching.